second book talk is with Amy Karam, the author of The China Factor, another newly published book. And with her is the person who wrote the foreword to the book, Ken Wilcox, the chairman of Silicon Valley Bank. So Ken and Amy, tell us about The China Factor.
So, excuse me, all I did was write the foreword. She wrote the book. But I want to spend a minute telling how that happened. I met Amy, I think, in 2013. And the story was like this. I've been with Silicon Valley Bank now for 26 years. If you don't know Silicon Valley Bank, I'll just say one thing. We bank a very high percentage of the startups in the technology sector in the US and in other countries around the world. So I was CEO there from 2001 to 2010, and at the end of 2010 I retired and was going to stay home, I guess, and the board offered me the opportunity to go to China because we felt like we were getting close to a license in China, which we were. So at the beginning of 2011, my wife and I moved to Shanghai. Well, if you've ever tried to start a bank in China, you know that it's not easy. Almost every country guards and protects its banking sector. And I would say China does an exceptionally good job of guarding and protecting its technology sector. And I won't go into detail, but I will say for the first 3 years as a bank in China, we were not allowed to use renminbi. That would be like starting a restaurant and not being allowed to use food. So it was very, very difficult. And I was at this conference at Stanford in 2013, and probably I was complaining about the obstacles the government puts up for some Western companies in some sectors, the uneven playing field. And Amy caught me afterwards and she said, you know, that may be true, but even if the government in China didn't make it difficult, Western companies would shoot themselves in the feet anyway. So if the government doesn't stop us from being successful, we'll do it to ourselves. And I said, that's really interesting. Tell me more. So Amy?
Thank you so much. What an honor it is to be presenting up here with you after all those years. So a little bit about the book. It is more than just how to do business in China and how to deal with the Chinese, but it's essentially how do Western companies need to change their game in global markets given the rise of China and other emerging entrants. So we have had the luxury of being very successful, especially in the high-tech sector, over many years. But China has risen and is slowly no longer an emerging country, but has arrived, and there are others following suit. So the idea is that yes, we as Western-based companies need to get off our laurels and change the way we do business, not only in emerging markets, but in other developed markets and even here at home. So it is based on my experience at Cisco Systems. I worked there for quite a number of years and ran a program, a competitive sales support program, there where we heard the competitive escalations from regions all over the world. We also were focusing very much on emerging markets at the time, so it was the collision of two worlds really. And so I learned a lot about what kind of competitive challenges we had with a couple of formidable Chinese competitors at the time. And the results were eye-opening. We realized that they were winning business in ways that were different than our competitive tactics, and we were surprised because we had taken a lot of pride in that product superiority was our key winning ticket. We had brand equity. We were known worldwide for having a superior brand, but we were not winning on that, especially based on in emerging markets.
So Amy, why don't you tell us, what are the 3 things that Chinese companies and companies in some other emerging markets as well, that Chinese companies do better than American companies.
Yeah.
List the big three.
So,
But if there's a big four, list four.
So longer term view, as you and I have talked about quite a bit, they have a longer term investment in their customer base. They have a lot of times the luxury of not being a public company, so being private companies, they can take that strategic risk or be a little bit more risk-taking, but they plan on being in a certain place for quite a bit of time. They invest in support, local infrastructure, et cetera.
And in the case of American companies, Western companies were under pressure quarterly to produce. And boards of directors are always saying, all right, you've been in China now for 4 quarters, show me the money. And whereas the Chinese competitor has the long-term view. It may take years and years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one main one. The other is, of course, the price discounting, which a lot of us are well aware of. The deep discounting, and that's not an uncommon market penetration strategy. But again, I think that's part of their long-term strategy is to gain the footprint. So that was a key success factor as well as a big challenge for us. And another one is their use of politics in influencing business decisions at the end of the day. That was a big shocker for us and our sales teams in that the Chinese government was very supportive of their private companies. And they would go out as China Inc. and a contingent and loop in some deals, high-tech infrastructure build-outs in a particular country in the greater trade agreement. And so you would be blindsided as a competitor because this would be pulled from under us at the 11th hour. And it was in the spirit of the bigger picture. And that's also what they're good at, right?
So it would be fair to say that the U.S. government does not provide as much support to American companies as they go overseas.
The U.S. government has a lot of great services and support, and they all are also very fair. And so they need to take a very equal approach to supporting companies. But yes, perhaps we could be doing something differently. We as the U.S. government could be doing a little bit more or being more proactive in equal yet more productive ways. Sure.
Okay, so you've got the long-term view, you've got the pricing strategy, you've got the government support, and is there a fourth?
Yeah, customer relationships.
Yes.
They're really good at that. I'm sure you've seen that given your tenure in China.
Very good. Yes,
How
because
good?
we American companies often expect the customer to adjust to the product, whereas I think Chinese companies are more likely to adjust the product to the customers.
Yes, lots of customization, you're right. And that goes back to the investment and the longer term view, absolutely.
So talk for a minute also about localization, because I think there's a misunderstanding. I think many American companies think they can superimpose their business model on China, and to the extent that they need to localize, they think that means translation. But localization, well, you say it.
Yeah, it's essentially customizing your product to suit your customer's needs, and that's a big part of your customer relationship building. It's not recycling, but a lot of emerging markets are leapfrogging as well. So recycling your mature products isn't going to work, and it's really respected out there. And at the end of the day, I found a lot that customers will compromise on superior products for a vendor's ability to build those strong relationships, right? The trust factor is huge for certain markets.
So in essence, what your book is saying is that Western companies, if they're going to compete effectively in world markets, are increasingly going to have to change their approaches because there are new competitors out there that have a different view and take a different approach. And
yes,
we're not used to it, but we better get used to it.
we better get used to it. So just to summarize on this part, there's really 2 main thrusts, and thanks for bringing us back to the bigger picture. There's 2 main thrusts in the book. Is we as Western companies need to change our game and need to change our strategy. So I've structured it in a way that it's a very practical framework. I call it the 5 P's of global marketing. So I took the 4 Ps of regular marketing. Product has now become solutions and innovation. If you want to succeed in global markets, especially with emerging entrants. Price is now value add. Don't compete on price because it's a zero-sum game for both sides. Third is promotion. Promotion becomes customer relationships and cultural IQ. Get to know the cultures that you're working with. And places, instead of distribution, it's partnerships. Partnerships are huge abroad, but be careful. And but the 5th P, which is the most powerful, really is politics, and incorporating politics into your business strategies, and figuring out how to do that, and expecting politics to be played in your business tactics abroad. But the other main thing that I want you to talk about today is the innovation advantage, and how do we maintain and evolve the innovation advantage. Western companies and countries are mostly known for this coveted skill and ability. And you told me many times about how you've hosted delegations from abroad, from China and other places, wanting to learn how to be innovative. So how do we maintain our innovation advantage?
I'm going to use our remaining time here.
1 minute.
1 minute is all.
1 minute.
All right. That's not a lot because this is an hour-long topic, and that is we attend so many seminars and conferences where people talk about innovation, and we assume often in the West that we have an innovation advantage, and I am here to tell you that we do and we don't. It's apples and oranges. You can give a speech on the disadvantages that China faces in the innovation space, but you can give an equally valid and persuasive speech on the advantages China has in the innovation space. And I think that these comparisons are going to get us nowhere. We have to, in Western companies, have to wake up and start understanding the ways in which China has distinct advantages in the innovation space. And there are at least 10 of them. And I will content myself, because she's giving me the hook here, with one that I think is really big, and that is in the 4 years I was in China, 60 Chinese delegations asked if they could come to Silicon Valley, to Santa Clara, to visit our bank and learn. I don't know of very many people that have gone to China from Silicon Valley and studied companies in order to learn. There are so many things that can be learned by studying Chinese companies that would help us do a better job, and we fail to do that. Whereas Chinese companies, Chinese government officials are constantly traveling abroad, studying other innovation centers in specific companies and learning. So, viewed from my point of view here in California, China knows a lot more about us than we do about China. There are at least 10 other big advantages, but I got the hook.
Indulge us in a couple more. She gave you another minute.
1 minute.
They're dying to know. Look at
Right,
dying to know.
another advantage for China right now is, so I was at a conference in LA a couple weeks ago, where there was a guy from Pew Institute, which is a surveying company. And this surveying company goes around the world and surveys populations on different topics. And this particular report was on happiness. Turns out that among the least happy people in the world today are Americans, and that among the happiest people are Chinese. So why is that? It has a lot to do with, if you've ever been in a car going 60 miles an hour and the car doesn't accelerate or decelerate. If there's no acceleration or deceleration, it's actually called the theory of relativity, you don't know you're moving. But if you feel like you're going up, you know you're moving and you feel happy. If you feel like you're going down, you know you're moving and you feel unhappy. So, average standard of living in the US, beyond a shadow of a doubt, somewhat higher than China. But China feels that it's been making progress for 30 years. That makes people happy. Most people in the US feel they've been going sideways or somewhat down, in the case of our working class, for 30 years. That makes people unhappy. Happy people are more innovative than unhappy people are, at least more aggressive, I think. The other thing is, I don't know if you've ever been the big guy attacked by the little guy, or if you've been the little guy attacking the big guy, but the little guy who's attacking the big guy is on the offense. The big guy who's being attacked by the little guy is on the defense. People on the defense are less happy than people on the offense. Always be on the offense. It leads to happiness. There are at least 10 other reasons.
Don't go yet. I need a picture.